On today's Websites Decoded, we're talking about the effect of AI on search and the implications it has for your website in B2B marketing and what you need to change in order to be ready. AI is radically changing the way that buyers discover and consume information and the way that they decide which websites to visit. And so it's rewriting the rules of how we optimize our website and our go-to-market for AI-powered buyers and the way that they use AI search tools. Crawlers from ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity and others, plus Google AI mode of course, are visiting your website regularly, taking information away and deciding if and how to synthesize them into results, the effect of which is whether they recommend you or not as a website to visit fundamentally to their users. And it has a wide range of implications and impacts on how B2B websites need to be created and optimized. And we'll talk about 3 critical changes you can start making today to optimize and prepare yourself for the reality of AI search today and prepare yourself for the future too. Did you know that most businesses only use 20% of their data? That's like trying to solve a puzzle with 80% of the pieces missing, or paying for a coffee that's only 1/5 full. Point is, you miss a lot, unless you use HubSpot. Their customer platform gives you access to the data you need to grow your business. The insights trapped in emails, call logs and transcripts, all that unstructured data that makes all the difference. Because when you know more, you grow more. And when you get a full cup of coffee, you can do more too. But I digress. Visit HubSpot.com today. So AI is fundamentally changing the way B2B buyers do their research. It's becoming the predominant tool in the research process. Studies show that vast majority of buyers are using AI tools in their research journey. Google is making AI increasingly dominant within their search experience. AI mode will probably become the default at some point in the future. And ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude and others are doing huge amounts of research on buyers' behalves. Problem we have is that by and large most websites are optimized for the way that Google did things exclusively within their algorithmic search era, if they were optimized for anything at all. And AI crawlers from ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, and even the way that Google view things is different. It's changing and it's different. And in many ways, it harks back to earlier iterations of the internet and the web. Funnily enough, I think that AI search is ushering in a return to some of what has always been user experience best practice. And in reality, the things that we are capable of on the web in terms of creative expression of information, to some degree have trended away from what has been most effective for buyers. And if you optimize for AI search engines, then in some ways you'll be sticking to what has been a degree of best practice all along. So let's have a look at some of the ways that you can prepare and optimize your website for the way that AI tools crawl, search, retrieve, and provide information to their users. Step 1 is Schema. Schema is not a new thing. It's been around for a while, but in B2B, it's been relatively slow to, get widespread adoption and take hold. Because the impact of Schema has been most prevalent, most prominent within consumer categories, recipes, products, e-commerce, and so on and so forth. But Schema fundamentally is a approach to make websites machine readable. So Schema gives crawlers, bots, tools like Google, ChatGPT, and others information about the parts of your website that it can't see or infer. And this has always been advantageous to consider, although the impact perhaps might not have been so prevalent within B2B. But now we're seeing that Schema is a good fundamental way to optimize your website for retrieval by AI search tools and for mentions and citations within AI search results. Search Engine Land did a very compelling study where they reviewed the impact of Schema on visibility in both search and AI search tools, and they saw a very positive impact from implementation of Schema on the pages that they tested. And we too at Blend have seen a very positive impact from Schema implementation within some of the sites that we work on. The schema that you should be focusing on in B2B is the organization schema, so telling bots and crawlers who you are, product and service schema, which helps them understand what you offer. FAQ schema is quite valuable too, and of course review and rating schema is available as well. All of these things can help to make your website more understandable by the variety of machines, the increasing variety of machines that are visiting, and processing that information into responses for people to see. So schema is a good baseline to make sure that your website is optimized for the future of AI search. Step 2 is to think carefully about how you present information. Google's crawler could interact with your website and execute JavaScript, meaning it could reveal certain types of hidden content that weren't loaded into the DOM when the page first loaded. But AI crawlers largely don't do it. So information that's on your website page is either loaded when the page loads or later when the user asks for it by clicking or interacting with something. CSS might hide content, whereas JavaScript might pull it from the server on demand. The problem we have in the AI search era is that AI crawlers, AI bots, so the ones that are building indexes for AI tools like ChatGPT, and the ones that are performing the RAG processes to synthesize results into responses, are by and large not executing that interactive code. Meaning, if any critical information on your website pages is hidden in an interactive way that isn't in the DOM when the page is loaded and isn't hidden by CSS, but it's actually hidden by JavaScript or called from the server on demand, then AI crawlers are not going to see that information. That could affect how you're represented in responses when they're performing RAG processes to retrieve and synthesize responses based on the content they have retrieved. And in the future, as models are trained, it has an impact at that stage too, because of course as they are gathering data for training, they're only going to be able to see the information that's retrieved by their crawler. And so making sure, reviewing your website to make sure that critical product, service, solution and company information that's available to users on page is also available and visible to those bots when they arrive is a fundamental step to ensure that you're ready for the AI search era. Interestingly enough, there are developments around the idea of providing a second parallel web for the AI crawlers specifically. And fundamentally, that AI version is a text-only version in which none of the content is hidden. It's completely machine readable and completely text based, so that an AI bot, an AI crawler can fully understand and use the information. And the fact that that's a conversation taking place and exists is, a sign that this approach to your website page design, is necessary or is important, because providing that hidden information in a non-hidden way is how these text-based web versions are providing the information that AI crawlers need. And to my earlier point, to some degree, this is user experience best practice. Having some content hidden behind accordions, tabs, and called up on demand is okay in certain situations, but if you over-rely on it, you are making it harder for users to access the information that they may find critical. And so I think there's always balance to be struck between presenting information freely, visibly static on page, and having it sort of condensed into more interactive areas that require some element of hiding content. So strip away hidden content, especially if it requires JavaScript or interactive code to execute, because those AI crawlers are not going to do it. I want to tell you about a podcast that's essential for understanding how AI is reshaping B2B marketing. Marketing Against the Grain, hosted by Kip Bodnar and Kieran Flanagan from the HubSpot Podcast Network. They consistently translate the latest AI developments into actionable marketing strategies you can actually implement. In one episode on Loop Marketing, they tackle a critical reality: 58.5% of Google searches now end without a click, and traditional linear funnels are becoming obsolete. If you're building websites that actually convert, you need to understand the marketing strategy behind them. Marketing Against the Grain, available wherever you get your podcasts. Step 3 is the biggie, and it's content strategy. Websites in part exist to host content that historically was aimed at generating search engine traffic or receiving and converting, traffic from other channels. And that's still true today. We talk a lot on Websites Decoded about the user experience of the core marketing website, but we can't ignore the role of a website in hosting content for discovery, education, and conversion. And the nature of that is changing. The way that users are replacing their historic use of search with use of AI tools has had a fundamental effect on the role and value of informational content. We believe and see that the business benefit of creating informational content in a lot of categories is massively reduced by the effect of AI search on user behavior. Think about the way that historically we would write articles about informational topics with an intention of getting into high position for long tail, low volume search results, and as a result being seen, visited, and developing some affinity with a visitor. The byproduct of that approach was also commercial position improvement if we did good internal linkings. But as visitors came to our informational content, they experienced our brand, saw our point of view, and came away with some impression of us. In an AI conversation where informational queries are being answered in an incredibly comprehensive manner, pulling information from a wide variety of sources, the brand exposure is minimal. Very few brands are mentioned. Links to sites are limited to small lozenges or small hyperlinks in like side bits of the text. And fundamentally, visitors are not either coming away from those conversations with a strong impression of your brand and who you are, or clicking through to your website. We're all seeing the decline in informational visits to our informational content on our website decline rapidly, and that's because people are staying inside the AI tools and the AI chat, and they're not getting an impression of your brand. So for many businesses, creating informational content is very questionable value, very questionable ROI in the future. Therefore, the content that's on your website needs to change. Now, AI search is a rapidly evolving area, and to some extent, it's very hard to be confident what will work and for how long and in the future. But broadly speaking, what we're seeing currently is an opportunity to move content creation in a direction that helps you to be referenced in the conversations in AI when brands are more prevalently displayed and presented. So for example, as buyers move from informational to commercial and they start asking AI tools, who are the best vendors for businesses like mine, with problems like mine, in industries like mine, then we're starting to see commercial content or content that's aligned to the commerciality of that inquiry result in brands being mentioned. So some classic examples of this would be very niche use case content, so information about how your product, service, or solution addresses the needs of a very specific niche of your buyer. So even narrower than your ICP, slices and segments within your ICP, solving specific problems in specific ways and places. Also effective is comparison content, how you compare to the other solutions that they may very well be looking at based on, market leadership, incumbents, and degree of knowledge. Integration content, compatibility content, so how you integrate with other tools that might be in use or languages that are prevalent, but also compliance that you meet, how you meet the requirements of stringent industries that require very specific approaches to, different things like privacy, data, security, and so on. These are all content that can help you be featured in AI tools when the conversation becomes more commercial. I think of this as infomercial content because in order to create it at scale, you need to take a broad, varied approach to communicating value. You're answering questions, but you're positioning your brand fundamentally as the solution. So it's part informational, part commercial, hence infomercial. We're also seeing some effect for the time being from list article formats, where you very quickly create content that lists out the best solutions to a specific problem. So that could be the best vendors for a specific use case, the best methodologies to use, the best platforms, products, and so on. So, want to prepare your website for the era of AI search? Start with those three things. Begin by implementing basic schema on your website quickly if you can, and review your site's use of JavaScript and interactivity, and to what degree your content is hidden, if at all, from those AI crawlers and bots. Those are the quick wins. Those are the low-hanging fruit. Then you need to think about your content strategy. What content does it make sense to create given how buyers use AI to perform their research, and what will have a positive business impact if you do it? We think that's infomercial content aimed at being found and synthesized into commercial queries within the AI chatbots. But please do keep an eye on trends, data, and your performance to make sure that you're moving with the times in that sense. Here's a quick story from us at Blend and our customer, Daytel. Daytel were launching a completely new product into a brand new market with a different type of buyer. To do this effectively, they knew they needed to rebrand, overhaul their website, and rethink their go-to-market. We partnered with them to achieve this, transforming their brand, rebuilt the website and their new identity, working with them long-term to shift from lead generation to demand generation. The impact? 35% more revenue, 63% more profit, and 800% ROI from marketing, and a HubSpot Impact Award to recognize the success. This is what happens when you have a partner who has strategic, creative, and technical expertise all working together. If you're in a similar place and want to discuss how we help your businesses grow, just head over to blendb2b.com.